The government held an energy summit today to discuss the move away from fossil fuels towards renewable sources. Participants discussed how best to position Ireland to reap the environmental, economic and social benefits of the transition. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said the need to both decarbonise energy systems and break our reliance on imported fossil fuels presents a real opportunity. Well, saying with that, we're joined by one of the participants in today's Energy Summit, Noel, Cunniffe, CEO of Wind Energy Ireland. Thanks indeed for joining us on 6-1. Looks like a talking shop. Was it a talking shop?
It wasn't, and thanks very much for having me. I have to say it was really worthwhile. What was really great to see was that the Taoiseach was there for the day, the Taoiseach was there, Minister Coveney, Minister Ryan was there, so it showed real political leadership. It brought together some of the leaders right across the energy sector, very focused on how we in Ireland can become energy independent and really painting the picture of the advantages that can offer us as a society, as an economy, and really drive us towards a decarbonised future.
The Taoiseach, there was a news conference afterwards. The Taoiseach described this effort to remove fossil fuels from the electricity generation system as like a moonshot. Like it's a huge project, it's a huge a challenge. And many people looking at it would think it's an impossibility to do this within a decade, as they were talking about.
I think we have to do it, and I think we are very lucky in Ireland that we actually have the capability to do it. We're already world leaders when it comes to integrating onshore wind energy onto our electricity grid. Up until today, 33% of our electricity this year came from wind energy. And we haven't even begun to tap into the enormous potential that's there in solar energy or offshore wind energy. We are one of the windiest countries on the entire planet. We also have one of the largest maritime areas in all of Europe. And when you combine that, the opportunity that offshore wind energy presents to us to decarbonise and to fully go to a zero-carbon electricity system is enormous. And I definitely think we can get there in the next 10 years. And it's going to be really important that we do, because the best way to decarbonise our society is to try and electrify it, try to put a plug on our heating with a heat pump, put a plug on our car with electric vehicles. And having a zero-carbon source is critical to that.
OK, so offshore wind energy is going to be key to this. And I think everybody agrees that that is the case. The challenges, though, are huge. And the first challenge is in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the ports being ready for it, in terms of the grid being ready for it. So that is a big job, isn't it?
There's work to do for sure, and if you look across the system, the two biggest areas that I think require focus to help us deliver targets are the planning system and the electricity grid. So on the planning system, we need to see the right level of resources and skill sets put into places like on board Planola, like International Parks and Wildlife Service. I think there's a job there in trying to translate the really good national planning policies and strategies that we have for renewable energy down to a local level. And then on the electricity grid side, it's really around trying to get that investment for a 21st electricity grid. We have plans in place now by EirGrid, by ESB Networks. They're great plans, they need to be delivered, so they need the people, the investment to do so.
OK, investment. How much investment are we talking about?
Well, a lot of people are very aware of that first offshore wind energy auction that we successfully awarded contracts for a couple of months ago. Those projects will cost about €9 billion of private investment to deliver what will ultimately be about half of our offshore wind energy target by 2030. You mentioned ports earlier. If we invest 600 million into 3 ports around the island of Ireland, that's a fraction of that, and those ports will then be able to build offshore wind farms, not just those 4 that were successful in the auction, but a whole suite of offshore wind farms for 30 years to come. So investment is really just a fraction of the benefit that Ireland will receive in green energy, in green jobs, in cleaner air, in warmer homes, and that's really what our focus should be.
Eamon Ryan was asked, the Minister for Energy was asked about investment, about who was going to do all this work, and he said the government was going to provide the infrastructure in terms of the grid, in terms of the ports, and that private companies would do the rest, would do the investment into offshore wind. Are people queuing up to put their money into this?
There's an enormous pipeline of companies and skill sets and people there to build the offshore wind farms that we need. We need to go from pretty much a standing start to developing about 7 to 10 offshore wind farms before the end of the decade. It's the exact same when you look across onshore wind energy. The pipeline is there, it's thriving. Same for solar energy, for battery energy storage. These types of technologies are all going to be required to help deliver that zero carbon system in the next 10 years or so.
Now, you had a press release out this morning talking about the reduction in the wholesale price of electricity, which is great news, of course, I suppose. Not great news for consumers, though, if it's not passed on. Lots of your members are also involved in the supply of electricity to households. When are prices going to start coming down?
Yeah, so wholesale prices are 35% lower in June this year compared to where we were last year, and that's about the 5th or 6th month that we've seen consecutive drops in wholesale prices. The days that we have more renewable energy available, those wholesale prices are lower, and the lower that we can keep pushing that down at the wholesale level, that then gets passed on to consumers. It takes some time to get into our electricity bills, but it will get there.
Yeah, but it's not happening anytime soon. I'm sure there are people watching us at home making that very point.
I think homes and businesses and families right across Ireland have really felt the pain of the last 12 months of us being so reliant on that imported gas, fossil fuel, which is driving up the price. If we can continue to depress the wholesale price, then I'm hopeful that we'll see that passed on to consumers in the coming months.
Just one final point. You mentioned that wind, I think, had supplied 33% of electricity so far this year, the first 6 months of this year. Only supplied 20% in June because the weather was nice, there wasn't that much wind. So I think one of the things that people raise about wind energy all the time is the wind doesn't blow all the time. It
doesn't, and we know that better than anyone, and same in the solar industry, they know better than anyone the sun does know its shine. But what you really need to get to that zero carbon system is a whole portfolio of different types of technologies. We have onshore wind. When we've offshore wind, the wind tends to blow more at the sea, so that'll be an opportunity. On the days, like you mentioned, if we have that solar energy, that's powerful, and that's what we can capture and then ultimately store that through batteries, through other types of technologies, and that'll deliver that zero carbon electricity system for us.
OK, Noel Cunniffe of Wind Energy Ireland, thanks for joining us on 6-1.
Thank you.